One of the things that stood out to me the most is John sends messengers, right? He sends them to Jesus to find out if he's the Messiah, which I thought was interesting because, John the Baptist was baptizing, and when Jesus came to be baptized, he acknowledged, like, you are greater than I. He must increase, I must decrease. And he just, like, through the Holy Spirit knew, like, Jesus is the Messiah. And it's interesting that he sends his messengers because it means that he also started to doubt. And I don't know exactly what happened, like, to cause that, but I mean, there's a lot of things that could have happened, right? He's in prison. I find that interesting that even John the Baptist doubted. And what I also found really interesting is the way Jesus approaches it. Tell John what you saw. What's happening, what I'm doing. He just says, like, what do you see? Like, just tell him what you see. And then he starts asking questions. And I always find that interesting because Jesus always leaves it up to us to choose to believe. It's not do it or else. It's like, here's what you've witnessed. I've laid it out for you. What do you believe? And I see that also with John. And the other thing that I find interesting is there's also a reminder there of, like, what did you witness at the Jordan, right? It says, behold, I send my angels before thee, who shall prepare thy way before you. It's a reminder. It's like a callback to this moment. And for me, I think this speaks, deeply to me in that one of the reasons why I decided to start doing this is because I felt like I was lacking in my faith, and I needed to take time, put in effort to grow in my faith. And, that's where I am. I need to take those steps, and I'm doing the same thing of kind of going back to thinking about what has Jesus done in my life. And I just continue to live in those moments and relive those graces to drive me forward in my faith. Because it's also like Jesus asking me then that same question. It's like, I lived as a missionary for 4 years. Like, what has that meant to me? Like, what has that done for me? Like, how has that affected my life and helped me to grow in my faith on that? The questions that Jesus asks, right? It's like, what did you go there to see? Like, he's calling back to the Jordan, and he's like, why were you there? Like, why did you go? Like, why did you go to John? Like, what is your reason? What were you looking for? What, to use Focus's term, like, what do you seek? And I think it's a good question to ask ourselves, because I think that's how we reorient ourselves back to Christ. Like, what is it currently in your life that you are seeking, you are passionate about? Like, and then are you allowing God to be the fulfillment of those things? And I think that's a good compass to reorient yourselves, because if you start to see, like, oh yeah, like, and it's like, yeah, I was looking for people, a man clothed in soft garments, and he talks about how those are the people that are in the house of kings. That's not what John was wearing. So if that's what you were looking for, you're going to the wrong place. And so similarly with our faith, like, are we looking in the right places for the things that we seek? And Jesus is ultimately the fulfillment of those deep desires. And he says, what went you out to see? A prophet? Yea, I tell you, and more than a prophet. That part kind of exemplifies kind of what I was saying with, like, we have these desires, but are they oriented towards Christ? And Jesus addressed, like, these are things you were looking for, right? But you were seeking more. You wanted something more than just a prophet. Ultimately, for me, what I'm getting from this is that call again to reflect on what God has done in my life and go back to that question that who is Jesus? How have I encountered him? And kind of reinvigorate or reignite my faith in Jesus as the Messiah.